Okay, I guess we're live. Very good. Happy New Year. Sawadi kap. Sawadi be my. That's Happy New Year, obviously, in Thai. Okay, so itch. Probably funguses, probably yeast. Anyway, Sawadi be my tukon. Um, you're probably in. I think most of you are in the U.S., but some of you are over here in Asia, where it's already 2024, and the rest of you are getting ready for it. I mean, as if it was. Now, by the way, I put out a little tape you might have seen already, or I think it's out on Rumble. But anyway, it's about the New Year's and the only real resolution you need to make. And I've thought about that for many years. So anyway, watch it. It's out. It should be out. Okay. There's only one New Year's resolution, and basically what it says is that tomorrow begins tonight. So the time you get to sleep will determine your day tomorrow. The time you get to sleep, not the number of hours, the time. All right. So that's all explained in this thing. So I hope you all had a chance, or a lot of you had a chance to see the webinar on parasites, because we always have questions about that. And I hope that a lot were answered. Um, so I taught. For those of you that saw it, you remember there was a part where I talked about the medications that you can take and the different kinds of protocols. But prior to that, there was something about uh, preparing for it. So not everybody needs to prepare for it. You can just start. You can just start. But if you want to prepare for it, there are certain things you can take. Including glutamine and aloe vera and a few other things. And the reason is that they help heal the gut. But it really doesn't matter. You just need to get rid of these guys. And if you haven't seen that yet, see it, okay? Because there's a lot of information on there. And the goal was really, remember, to make everyone aware of what is available. See here, what is this? What is this one here? There we go. Tinidazole. Tinidazole. We can just get it over the counter here. Imagine that. But it's a third world country, so we don't, we're not really that free, right? Anyway, you can get them all here. It's pretty nice. There are other countries too. So I'm looking for one other place that you can go to get them free. And also, as I said, if we get together, if we can have I'm going to get a few doctors together who understand what we're talking about and would like to join like a consortium of doctors where we can see everybody online. And then we have to do what's called a virtual physical exam, which is kind of a weird thing to do, but you have to do it. And then once you do that, then you can legally write prescriptions or order blood tests or order things like that. So that's what we do. I mean, that's what we can do, and that's what we will do. We're just getting together the people I can. But for now, I gave you a few Indian pharmacies that are reputable, real stuff. I mean, like the brand names and all that. But who knows what's reputable anymore, right? We don't know. I mean, ivermectin is so popular. Who knows? Maybe they're putting graphene oxide in it. Who knows? But anyway, so what did we want? What was I supposed to tell you today? All right. So anyway, for those of you who were not able to attend the parasite and cancer talk, you can go to drlodi.com/parasites and you can order the recording. So that's cool. Okay. It's just a good thing to have all that basic fundamental knowledge because, in case your doctor doesn't know and you say, hey, well, look here, watch this. It'll give you the information. Okay. Now, again, Facebook. We're back on Facebook. Twitter. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, all at Dr. Thomas Lodi. The only one is Twitter X at Dr. Thomas Lodi MD. All right. Then you can go to the website, drlodi.com/live. Yeah. And watch it live. All right. That's that. Okay. So I guess a lot of you probably getting ready to go out and celebrate um, the coming of the new year. And you know, it's funny. I do go over this in the talk that I put out there. But what are we celebrating? We're celebrating the Gregorian calendar's New Year. When does the new year really begin? What is a year? What is a new year? Is it a solar year? Is it the time that the? Oh, by the way, I have to premise all of this with the assumption that the Earth is a globe and that there are other globes out there like suns and things like that. And so okay, so but uh, uh, yeah, okay, that's what I have to that's what the assumptions are made of. So anyway, so the solar year is a year the sun takes to go all around the sun. The time it takes the sun go all the way around, and that's what we base the fundamental year on. So each planet has a different year, right? So, um, you know, Mercury will have less days, Mars will have more days in a year, Jupiter will have even more days in a year because it takes them longer to go around. And then you all know about the planet Nibiru, which has an elliptic uh, orbit, and it takes 3,600 years to go around once. So one of their years is 3,600 years of ours. So imagine just if they're 10 years old, 20 years old, how compared to us. By the way, that new week it's called Nibiru by the Sumerians, but I was reading a either Newsweek or Science or something right after I had read Zachariah Sitkin's books back in the 90s, I guess. And I ran into this article and it says scientists have discovered a new planet. And the reason they did is because there was a wobble on Pluto, which they no longer call a planet. They're calling Pluto a moon, I think. No, I don't know. It doesn't matter what they call it. There's a wobble on it that could only be caused by another planet. And they called it Planet X. And then you didn't hear much about it for a long time. Anyway, it comes around every 3,600 years. So, but let's get into it today. Let's get into our stuff. Let's get into our. Yeah. So there won't be a lot of you because you're all going to be out partying. Okay, that's good. That's good. Have fun. Have fun. And remember, starting tomorrow, remember that the next day begins that night. And when you go to bed will determine the rest of your day. And so that's very important. And I explain why. And I think the next talk should be on the next webinar should be on food because there's so much. People are still upset about the food. Anyway, so we'll talk about questions now. Let's get into the questions. But before I'd like get into the questions, I'd like to just discuss one thing quickly, and that is the since we were talking about microorganisms, and you all remember how many there are, right? They estimate 10 to the 30th power, which they call a nonillion. I never heard of that before, but that's what they call it. And they're everywhere except for in this geothermal well, this special well in Ethiopia, but they're everywhere else on the earth. As far as 77 kilometers up in the atmosphere, there's microorganisms. They go down to 2 kilometers in the ocean. They're everywhere, all over your skin, everywhere. And if they're not on your skin, you're in trouble. So, but anyway, so what happened in the 1800s is there was a guy named Louis Pasteur, but he wasn't alone. There was other people that talked with him, that were had his perspective, and he talked about germs, microorganisms, and they get in you and they cause a problem, and you got to get rid of them. Okay, now that is what morphed into the disease model that became allopathic medicine in 1910 officially. Um, and so the disease is out there and it gets into you, diabetes gets into you, hypercholesterolemia gets into you, hypertension gets into you, and you got to get rid of it. It's just fundamental to the medical model. Anyway, so they're dealing with something called pathology, and what pathology is, it comes from the Greek word pathos, which means suffering or quote disease unquote. And the first real modern pathologist was a German physician named Rudolf Virchow, and he's considered the father of pathology. He was a guy that actually, took microscopes and looked at cells and concluded that cells were. He made a lot of advances. He also made a lot of advances with CFCs, chronically fermenting cells, also known as, yep, you got it, cancer, also known as cancer. So, but uh, so I think he wrote, what was it, the pathological basis of disease. He wrote like the fundamental textbook on pathology. Now, pathology means that something's gone wrong with our physiology. Something's gone wrong, and um, anyone who understands God knows that nature, which our bodies are a part of, cannot do anything wrong. It can only do what's necessary. Water can only follow the path that it follows. It could not have followed a different path. It's not possible. If a tree is cut, it's going to fall exactly the way it has to fall based on all this. There's no options. There's no choice. Nature happens perfectly, just the way it is. So, um, anyway, so there's no pathology, there's adaptive physiology. Okay, because our bodies were designed to adapt. We have adaptive, we have a biomechanical adaptation, we have physiological adaptation, we have a biochemical adaptation. All right. And an example, biomechanical, someone pushes you, your leg goes out, holds you up, you don't fall over. Biomechanical adaptation. Physiological, arteries are plugged up because you're eating normal food. Get plugged up, plugged up, plugged up. Your body's got to keep the blood flow, so it increases the pressure. And this adaptation is called a disease. Uh, anyway, so there's no pathology. There's only physiology. It's doing what it needs to do. Okay. Anyway, so Virchow was actually fought with Louis Pasteur, who came up with the germ theory. Um, he said that disease, what he called disease tissues, were caused by a breakdown of order within the cell, not from an invasion of a foreign organism. Okay, and so what the famous quote that he made, Dr. Rudolf Virchow, was, "If I could live my life over again, I would devote it to proving that germs seek their natural habitat, diseased tissue, rather than being the cause of the dead tissue." In other words, mosquitoes seek the stagnant water, but do not cause the pool to become stagnant. That's a very important thing to understand. And that was the father of modern pathology. If he could live his life over again, he would do it to prove that the germs are there to clean up the mess, not they didn't do anything. This has not been settled academically. It's been settled by those who control the thought, control the narrative, the word that people love to use, the medical narrative. But it has not been settled. Not been settled. You can look it up in the literature. It's still, yeah. I mean, Louis Pasteur on his deathbed, what did he say? Because he had an opponent called Bernard um, and Beauchamp, and he said, and Beauchamp, he said, on his deathbed, he goes, Beauchamp was right. Bernard was right. The germ is nothing. The soil is everything. But they said, he's died. That was just the ramblings of an old man. So they forgot about it and we went on. Because remember, the money is not in eliminating this problem. The money is in the medicine, the drugs. Okay. Think about this. Take a banana and cheese, right? A piece of cheese and a banana. Put them there. Watch them. What happens? The banana will rot from the inside out. If you cut it, it'll be black in the middle, and it's rotting from the inside out, right? The cheese develops a mold, but if you cut it inside, there's nothing there. So the cheese is dead. So that's what's happening. It's being consumed this way. That which is alive is from inside out. Okay. Okay. And that's also where health comes from. Health comes from. Health is inside out. It doesn't come from outside in. So health and the ability to heal and all that comes from the inside out. Okay, you can't make it happen. You can support all it needs to be healthy. In other words, eat right, go to bed, and now your body will be healthy. You got a big cut on your arm. You go to the surgeon, the brilliant surgeon. They close the gap, and they're very skillful. They close it up very nicely. But if you can't heal, it'll get full of pus and it won't heal. It'll open up. You have to heal it. Okay, that's where health comes from. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. I just wanted to talk about those things before we got started, just as a reminder to us all as we enter the new year, because 2024 is the year. It's going to be a lot is going to happen, and I hope we're all ready as we can be. Everything, financial collapse, World War III, and some things are going to be released. Probably, we're led to believe that there are these invisible little microscopic things that are going to be released, but rather it's probably has to do a lot with different EMF systems that we're being exposed to. They're all over. And thanks to Elon, buddy, he put 20,000 up in the last couple of years. 20,000 more satellites up in our atmosphere. Anyway, so we're gonna be exposed. This is gonna be a big year. It's gonna be a big year. So who knows how long we'll be able to do what we're doing right now. Okay. Now, so first question. Let's go. The website question from Joanne. Can remaining surgical hardware cause CFCs? I broke my left ankle 7 years ago and had a large metal plate, 13 screws, and a tight wire installed. I was just diagnosed with left-sided breast CFCs. Is there any possible correlation? That's a very good question, because it's your left leg, and I get it. Because the meridian of your second molar there, your first and second molars, goes down to your thyroid, breast, stomach, and pancreas or spleen. So we know that the meridians go that way. And now the meridians down then they also extend down throughout the body. Like the gallbladder meridian goes all the way down to the baby toe and things like that. So there could be some relationship, but I don't think it's not a direct relationship, as it would be if you had a cavitation there or you had a root canal there. Okay. The most common metals in orthopedic implants are made, the metals involved are cobalt and chrome, stainless steel, and titanium. Right. Problem is that they're alloys, and alloy means they've mixed a bunch of stuff together. So they find there's actually like nickel and aluminum in those, and both of those can be very toxic, and they cause a major immune response. So as you know, there's more aluminum in our drinking water now than there has ever been. little aluminum nanoparticles. Just wonder how they're getting there. How do they get it? Anyway, Joanne, there's nothing you can do if you wanted to get them removed, you can, but it's a very difficult surgery. It's I don't think it, but right now it shouldn't be your focus. Right now, your focus should be on, first of all, your teeth, jaws, 3D, cone beam, CT, have it read by a biological dentist um, who really has read a lot and understands them. And that's what you should be looking at that. And then you need to get rid of parasites. You need to do a juice cleanse, maybe 3 weeks of just drinking like 3, 4 liters of juice a day. Um, you know, which gives you plenty of nutrition. Do that. You go to bed early. Do your movements. There was also a recent podcast you might have seen. I hope you saw with Darren, a kinesiologist, amazing, amazing man. He works with us. We're really happy that he's with us. But he keeps people happy. He keeps people moving. Gives them movement snacks all day long, and he shows the simple ways, the simple movements you can make to uh, six, 70 seconds of stair climbing. What is it? Around 6 times increased natural cell function. It's a big deal. Big deal. One thing, if you get a blood test, if you get a lymphocyte subset, they're just going to show you the number um, of natural killer cells you have, but they don't test for um, activity level. And so the only place that I know that tests it is in Japan. They look at the amount of gamma interferon being produced. I just don't see that here in the U.S. or there in the U.S. or I don't see that elsewhere. In Thailand, we have it because it's licensed by we have a lab here that's licensed by a Japanese lab. But anyway, just do some things. Watch that webinar with I mean that podcast with Darren and I, and we're going to do another one. That was just part one. It's just introducing you to the whole concept, but how you can small movements. I mean, 10 minutes, 10 minutes a few times a day, and you can really improve your immune function. And then if you're learning how to turn this off, you can really, um, rather than spending thousands and thousands of dollars on some uh, potentially beneficial immune drug. All right. Um, so I would look at all that other stuff, and then I would start the cleanse. And I'd be happy to speak with Joanne about a specific plan. But you got to get rid of the parasites as well. Okay, so here's Carrie, and she's saying, "What is HRV, heart rate variability? Mine has been measuring low every night. What would be the cause and how to increase it?" Well, you all know, you've heard of heart rate variability because the heart doesn't beat uniformly, even though it seems that way. But uh, this beat and that beat, and then the following beat, between them, there are different milliseconds off and on. You'd have to you have to have special equipment to measure it. And what is it showing you? It's showing you how the autonomic nervous system, which controls, the resting heart rate. If our heart was just left on its own without any innervation by the vagus nerve, which comes from the back of the brain, the vagus nerve, which is your parasympathetic system, and it goes all over. Uh, if if that was not um, connected to your heart, slowing it down, the normal heart rate would be around 120. Okay, but because we have a vagus nerve and we have some parasympathetic activity, normal heart rates are anywhere from 60 to 100 is not really. That's a lot. And remember, the goal of the heart and the blood and all that is to circulate blood. So if and why, to bring in oxygen mainly, but also all the other nutrients and stuff. So that has, That has to be happening all the time, but it's modulated by the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay, those are two systems in the autonomic nervous system that are responsible for those fluctuations. So the higher your heart rate variability, that means that these guys are, none of them are dominant. They're moving as they need to, appropriately, so that the flow is maintained all over the body. And remember, some tissues are going to be needing increased flow, while other tissues are going to be needing decreased flow. And so all of this is determined by some divine intelligence, that God, that that is able to look at all these multiple different systems and keep them getting what they need. It's pretty amazing. So um, now the heart rate variability actually decreases with age. And it's really interesting. Heart rate variability decreases most, the higher the better, right? The higher the healthier. Decreases most between the ages of 20 and 40. Okay, and then it kind of evens out for a while. And then guess when the next dip is? At 100. And these dips are due more to the fact that the sympathetic is upregulated, is more, there's more sympathetic. So really, if you look at the ways to lower heart rate variability, you need to get out of the sympathetic drive, which is what we're in. And the sympathetic drive, which means it's going to keep things, you have to understand, between beats, they won't be, it'll be slowed down less time because one system is dominant instead of, really finely tuning it. Okay. So, um, and some strange, and there's another strange thing is that men usually have a higher heart rate variability until about the age of 50, then they kind of even out. And I think it's probably to do with menstruation because, women generally live 10 years longer than men. Um, and what's very interesting is that because they have a lot, estrogen's very, uh, although we always think of it as negative, it's got a lot of positive. I mean, both men and women need estrogen just to keep their coronary arteries open and flowing, and so we don't have what they call myocardial infarctions, which are called heart attacks, right? So even all that, but so, but I think one of the most important reasons, significant reasons that women live longer than men, and, and and the reason I'm saying this is because once they get to menopause, within a few years, they're now at the same risk as men. So what changed at menopause? They stopped having their menstrual cycle, means they stopped losing blood, which means they stopped losing iron. Why do I say that? Because men who regularly donate blood are at about the same risk, have that 10-year advantage over men who don't. So it's probably iron. And iron, we've talked about in the past, iron is got so many chaperones. I mean, it can't do anything by itself, right?